Not travelling together in the same vehicle, but in and out of their home in separate vehicles. It's possible either together or separately that one or two of them might visit her later today. Will her sister visit? We'll have to wait and see. But certainly for now, at least, her husband is in hospital by her side, and I'm sure hoping for a speedy recovery. But it may, of course, take several weeks, if not more months, until she's over this.
Paul, thanks very much. Well, more on this story. We're joined by the author, Sonia Purnell, who also suffered from hyperemesis gravidarum during her first pregnancy. Here also is the royal historian, Kate Williams, and the Guardian columnist, Zoe Williams. Nice to see you all. Sonia, start with you. A lot of people are saying, oh, this is severe morning sickness. How different is what you experience and what the Duchess is going through to the sort of slight nausea that a lot of women experience?
It rather makes me laugh, actually. It's got nothing to do with mornings. It goes on all day and all night if you can't get to sleep. Initially, when you first start suffering, everyone's terribly kind. They offer you ginger biscuits, always ginger biscuits. But the look of ginger biscuits alone triggers it again. You just say, please, please, don't even mention them. I mean, it is really severe. I mean, I was really ill, and I ended up in hospital a lot, off and on, throughout both my pregnancies. Madly, I went for it a second time, believing it would be better. It wasn't, so I stopped at 2.
So for you, it didn't end after that, because a lot of women have morning sickness for 3 months and then kind of bloom, but that wasn't the case for you. You were ill for 9 months.
Well, 7 months, because actually quite often babies can come early. It can make the baby come prematurely if you're very unwell. I did find that the middle trimester was slightly different. I mean, I was a little bit improved. I did a bit of work, but the third trimester, what I had of it was miserable, unbelievable, yeah.
And Sonia, everybody, of course, coos over pregnant women, and a lot of people think, oh, it's a marvellous time in your life, but how much harder is it when you're actually just feeling so absolutely appalling at what is meant to be a particularly happy time?
You don't want to see anyone, you don't want to talk to anyone, you don't want to be seen by anyone, you look a wreck, you don't want anyone to see you that way. You're clutching onto the side of the loo most of your day and most of your night. I mean, it's not a very sociable illness, I can assure you. Very little cooing goes on at this point.
How long were you in bed for? I mean, is it something that you're treated in hospital for? Or?
Yes, it was. I mean, actually quite similar to this pattern. Went in about this stage of the pregnancy. I mean, both pregnancies now slightly sort of merged into one, but I think it was 3 weeks, my first pregnancy I was in at this point, and on drips, 2 drips quite a lot of the time.
And as I understand it, is the body reacting to the pregnancy hormone?
That's exactly it. So some doctors say, oh, well, this is marvellous, it means that your baby's very strong, and that has rooted itself very strongly. It's this hormone called HCG, and it's effectively an allergic reaction to it. You're allergic to being pregnant, and it does feel like you're being poisoned. You just want it to finish, really.
I mean, on the positive side, it is not something that promotes miscarriage or anything like that.
No, not unless you become very ill. I mean, if it's treated, if you don't become too dehydrated, then the pregnancy should continue. You know, I don't want to sort of cause any unnecessary alarm. She's obviously in very good hands. The thing to do is to keep her hydrated, and she'll presumably be on different drips like I was. One
of the things that you mentioned there was that people say, oh, it means your pregnancy is really healthy. Another part of the speculation about this all is that it's possible, it's more likely that you have twins if you have this condition. It is traditional, if you have twins, you often have a lot worse morning sickness. Kate Williams, what implications would there be if the Duchess was carrying twins?
Well, of twins, we haven't had royal twins before. I mean, twins are much more common in British society now than they ever were before. They are increasingly common, partly because of older mothers, and that's one of the main reasons. But also, you know, we've never had twins before, and what the basic point is that we now have these changes of succession. If it's a girl, she will inherit the throne. If she is the firstborn child, she'll inherit the throne. And that's also the same case if she's the firstborn twin. So if she's the first twin, if it's a girl and boy twins, if she's the first, she'll be our future queen. So the law has now been, you know, it's not been changed, but the authorities are going to uphold it. And this is, you know, a pretty, you know, important historical moment, a long tradition in which it's the men who get to be kings. The only women who get to be queens are the ones who have no siblings. So women are the kind of the second choice, the default monarch. Now, you know, I mean, a lot of it is at the Queen's behest. It's basically saying women can do this job too.
Does that make you any warmer about this royal event,
Yeah, I feel great about having a female queen. Not that we haven't got one at the moment. Somebody on Twitter said if it is twins and they come out by cesarean, which twins obviously often do, does the obstetrician decide who's the future monarch?
Well, actually, it's quite an interesting question because, I mean, I'm not an obstetrician, obstetrician, but I was talking to some people who are, and they're saying that usually the obstetrician takes out the one who was going to be born first anyway, because that's the bigger one and tends to be, you know, bigger and higher towards the top. So that's often the way it works. But yes, there's an aristocratic precedence for this actually in the aristocracy, in the Marquis of Cholmondeley, that their two boys were born by caesarean section. First one got the stuff.
Yeah,
got the house.
Zoe, there are 14 pages of coverage already in the Daily Mail today. How excited are you?
I wrote a piece yesterday about all the things I dreaded reading, and I've already read most of them. I've already read loads of people thinking morning sickness and hyperemesis gravidarum are the same thing. I've read loads of people speculating about what Lady Di would have made of the business, as if she would make anything other of the business than what great news. What I didn't expect was the Daily Mail to commission an artist in America to do an impression of what the royal baby might look like. It's
There's been a few of those, haven't there? I think there were some others as well, weren't they, matching them up together?
It's really, really ghoulish, and you think, oh, if they really got to that already, it's only 8 weeks.
Well, they say that royal babies, a royal governor said royal babies are only private in the womb, but that's been the case before. But this one isn't quite private in the womb, and we're already, you know, it's not even 12 weeks and we're already talking about it.
Do you feel that? Do you have any sympathy for her, Zoe? Most women, you know, don't want people to know about the pregnancy until at least it's past the 12-week stage. A lot of people don't even tell their families. She's not only had her hand full, she has the whole world now examining her every move.
And also, she was having to play hockey in high heels 3 days ago. I mean, it's just atrocious. It's the most atrocious pregnancy you can possibly imagine.
I do photographed and followed and talked about.
Apparently they haven't been drinking alcohol. They've been doing toasts with water for the last month or so on their royal tour. So this was one of the giveaway signs, apparently. But Sonia, I mean, there is a sense, it strikes me about this pregnancy, in, you know, whether you like the royal family or not, that they are becoming more like everybody else. I mean, the issues that are being discussed are issues which face ordinary people rather than, I was reading in the papers, the Home Secretary used to have to be present at the birth to make sure there wasn't any baby swapping.
Look, that did strike me this morning, actually, that pregnancy is a great social leveller, isn't it? I mean, I had exactly the same condition as the Duchess of Cambridge, the future Queen of England. You know, we all go through these things. What I didn't have was 100 photographers outside that she's got to presumably face at some point. Poor woman, I just can't imagine that.
The level of intrusion, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, until Elizabeth II, as Princess Elizabeth had Prince Charles, the idea was that the Home Secretary had to be there to make sure there was no baby swapping. And before Queen Victoria, the Home Secretary was actually in the room watching it go on. And, you know, George VI actually realised that if the Home Secretary could come to his daughter's birth, to the birth of Prince Charles, that actually perhaps all the ministers of the Commonwealth might want to come as well. And there'd be a huge amount of them outside, you know, kind of, you know, I don't know, doing the crossword and waiting, you know, playing word searches while they waited for the baby. And he thought that was too indignified and, you know, had to put an end to it. But, you know, as you say, you know, the royal baby is, you know, gets this kind of attention. And even though pregnancy is a leveller, it's rather different for a royal child. I mean, Diana was one of the first people, you know, she was the first woman to give birth in a hospital, because it's very common that you give birth at home. Royals do an awful lot at home, and that's not going to happen here. She's already
I mean, this one will be third in line, right?
Yes.
But Charles and William. So the expectations would be, given normal lifespans, it'd be a very long time.
Well, this is it, Adam. I mean, we get so excited about the youth, but it's possible this little one might not come to the throne till 2072, and of course I'm not going to be here by then, and it might rule into the 22nd century. I don't know, when they're flying around in, you know, the spaceships and things. So, you know, at the moment, we were saying that the royal family are becoming more like Britain. Well, Britain is becoming much more top-heavy in terms of age. There are many more old people than young, and that's the royal family that we're seeing, a lineup. We've got the longest living monarch, we've got the longest serving Prince of Wales. It is kind of a silver monarchy, really.
Sonia, back to you. Throughout your experience, it was pretty bad throughout your whole pregnancy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
It literally ended with the birth?
It did. Actually, my waters broke, and suddenly the nausea disappeared like a switch. And I should have been going into hospital, because obviously this was quite premature, but I said, no, I want to eat my dinner. This is the first time I can enjoy food for 7 months. And so I sat and ate a 2-course dinner and then went into hospital.
Did you worry that it would affect your relationship with your child being that ill throughout the whole pregnancy?
I did worry, actually, about that. It didn't at all, although he was born by emergency caesarean. I was quite out of it when I came round, and someone said, would you like to see your baby now? And I said, what baby? I mean, I was so high as a kite on various drugs by this point. The next day we were introduced to each other, and I mean, it was love at first sight, and it's been love ever since, you know.
Oh, well, let's end on that happy note, although from talking about babies to talking about Boris Johnson, I mean, very often seems pretty much the same thing, but the Mayor of London has been throwing his toys out of the pram this morning with a pretty tough speech on Europe. Let's listen to a bit of that.
It's